Of course, I just want to thank you for having me back. You welcome me every time, and it's always really, truly life-giving to be with you. Um, I want to say that this topic, I'm just scratching the surface of it, really. Um, the things that I say hopefully will bring some thought and some ideas to you, but it is not meant to be comprehensive. It's meant to be kind of a beginning. So here we go. As some of you know, Susan and I moved at the beginning of this month to the hamlet of Glen Ellen in Sonoma County. It's been thoroughly exhausting, but also exhilarating to land in an abundance of nature, small town welcome, and Valley of the Moon magic. You'd think that amidst all these trees and woodpeckers and rattlesnakes, I'd want to preach on nature, to wax poetic about the olive grove across the road, or the horses further up who are happy to eat your carrot offerings. But no, not this time. I'm too tired to get all Mary Oliver. Instead, I'm talking about the other current refuge of my life, the place to which I've been retreating for weeks and dragging Susan along with me, the NBA playoffs. As our life in San Carlos began to unspool, the nightly ritual of watching the game became our own carrot dangling out ahead, getting us through the day. Typically, I wouldn't be consumed to this degree, unless the Warriors were in it. But the zone of not thinking while watching the screen soothes. And for me, who was raised on the court, the sound of sneakers squeaking on wood, the cadence of the announcers, and the rhythm of the fast break is like a lullaby. So today I'm talking about sports, and more importantly, sportsmanship. As usual, these thoughts are incomplete and a bit scattered, rushed as I was preparing for today. One passage is lifted from my book manuscript, evidence that the topic has been stirring in my mind for years. Stirring because sport is the legacy from which I come, yes, but also because sport is now a modern day replacement for the virtually absent but deeply needed experience of ongoing community ritual. The arena has become a sacred place. Inside that liminal venue, our primal itches are scratched and the collective human experience is amplified. At the same time, the rule of sport has long been laying out moral and ethical frameworks for how to relate with one another. That doesn't mean it's perfect. From numerous angles, the industry, like so many others, is all about the money. And in the current playoffs, there's been a rash of cruel behavior. Fans spitting on players, tossing beverages, and worse, all revealing the potential ugliness of humans, which has recently been so broadly stoked in our country. But the container of true sport will not allow these misdeeds to stand. What I mean is, beyond those fans now being banned for life, there is a code of conduct that sport has been laying out for centuries. Fairness, respect, turn-taking, mutual dignity, trust. These values regulate the container of the arena, a space designed for displays of superhuman skill, effort, and yes, combat. But within the battle is an ideal, a way of holding oneself in relationship to others, recognizing their inherent worth. A couple of years ago at a San Francisco City Arts and Lectures event, I jumped into the Q&A section to find out how Steve Kerr, the head coach of the Warriors, for those who don't know, to find out how Steve Kerr defines sportsmanship. His answer surprised me at first. He said, "The way to respect another player the most is to fight like hell. Competition, bring it, bring it. Then embrace the person after it's over. Thank them for bringing out the best in you." His response led with that competition, with the meet, the clash, the conflict. I don't know why it should surprise me. Isn't that really the thrill we're all there for? The fire of competition must be present for the wisdom of sportsmanship to be anything but a platitude. The two must be held in dynamic relationship. True sportsmanship embodies fierce engagement, but also virtue common to the well-being of all. To be honest, people, I'm starting to think that in this country, sportsmanship may save us. I want to share with you now just a clip from the book. So it has a slightly different context. How sweet it is to be 16 again. The year I was a monk, NC State was hot, burning their way through March Madness, and I could feel the fires of New Mexico rising as those boys stepped onto that court to play some ball. None of the guys watching the game in the back of Round Table Pizza were thinking much about writing a book. They were working a shift or just getting off or downing a pie on the way home from practice. I'd gone in to work on the book in the back room, hoping for the feel of a pub, a lively yet secluded place to get some writing done. Isn't it funny the places we end up? Like the Round Table in Laurelwood Plaza, or the things we choose to talk about, like basketball. I'm talking ball now because it's been talking to me all my life. I don't know a world without the Wolfpack or the ACC. As a kid, I thought Jimmy Valvano was everyone's hero. In '83, NC State won it all in Albuquerque and became a legendary Cinderella team. A spark caught that turned into a roar. National champions! Jimmy Valvano body surfs the crowd on the court. He really did body surf on the court after they won. That year, my mother offered her fifth graders the word Albuquerque as extra credit on spelling tests for the rest of the school year. Because, of course, at our house, the Wolfpack already ruled the roost. I was 9 years old, plenty old enough to remember our furniture literally shaking with excitement the night we won. For months, my brother and I went around singing the championship song. From the heart of North Carolina came the Wolfpack with a dream to be the rest of all the best, to be the winning team. And I will stop there to spare you all. But each year brought the games, and never was there not a game on. And I don't mean that incessant 3 ESPN channels thing. I mean that NC State always has a basketball season, football and baseball too, and so we watched. Of course, State is part of the ACC, so if the Pac wasn't on, somebody else was worth rooting for. There are also NC State players who went pro. My own cousin, or Russell Wilson, for example. And so pro teams had their place too. The legend of sport is the legacy I inherited. It came through my veins and calcified in bone. Sport as a game, a way of life, a spiritual practice, a code of ethics, a family. What is it that drives us to such passions over sporting events? Why has sport become religion for the masses? The short answer is ceremony. The big game is also a formalized container in which an entire community relates to and interacts with the unknown. It is a language we can fall into together, even though outcome is entirely unpredictable. Together, in liminal space, we bite our nails and pee our pants and pace the floor with jelly in our belly, laboring away years of our lives during commercial break. What's going to happen? Will we win or lose? Are we about to experience rapture or rupture? Minutes from now, we might be high-fiving people we don't even know with foolish grins on our faces. Or we'll be sulkily finishing the picture and paying the bill. Nothing but a dime between heaven and hell. What do we gain from that rare zone of suspended time? A thrill, to be sure, but we can also feel ourselves revel in possibility and probability and potentiality. Anything could happen and will, especially in March. Grown men paint their naked chests and beat them freely upon a touchdown. Thousands literally clasp their hands together in prayer for a buzzer shot. We forget that all moments in time have the same fecund, infinite potential. Every moment is a ripening. It just so happens that when orange leather balls arc their way towards small baskets of either glory or doom, we tend to remember the ripening because we can taste it. Uh-oh. Here we go. So recently, I was fascinated to discover, and maybe some of you have heard of this, a media organization co-created by Gautam Chopra, son of Deepak Chopra. It's called religionofsports.com. They are filmmakers, podcasters, writers, and makers who seek to inspire and entertain through compelling depictions of the spiritual dynamics between sport and human potential. On their website, they go on to say a few things. I've condensed this a little bit. You can see the full thing online. They say, sports aren't like religion, sports are religion. We believe in the power of storytelling to show why sports matter so deeply to communities around the world. Sports are mythic, with epic battles, godlike heroes and villains, real-life miracles, and unshakable, agonizing curses. We believe that the court, the field, the pitch, wherever the competitive arena may be, is a spiritual crucible in which spontaneous human dramas are enacted every single day. We believe these stories contain multitudes of truth and can be artfully mined for profound yet tangible wisdom. Let's look again back to Steve Kerr to give us a couple examples of that profound yet tangible wisdom. He told the story of a big painted quote that Coach Greg Popovich used to keep in the locker room. The quote talked about a stonecutter hammering away at the stone, and on the 100th blow, the stone breaks. But the stonecutter knew it took the first 99 to break the stone, not the last one. Kerr said, Pop's philosophy was, we're going to work every single day. We're going to pound the rock. Which kind of sounds like spiritual practice to me. At another point, Kerr relayed advice he had received right before starting his coaching stint for the Warriors. Pete Carroll, who's the coach of the Seattle Seahawks, Pete Carroll asked him, what are the most important values in your life? What were you built on? Pick the 4 most important values in your life that make up who you are and implement them every day. Kerr said that his were competitiveness, joy, mindfulness, and compassion. And so those became the core values of the Warriors. Now just zoom out for a second, like think about that. If you just think of a warrior or a spiritual warrior, a person that has a fierceness about competitiveness, joy, mindfulness, and compassion. Seeing the similarities there? Coach Kerr went on to discuss culture and environment, saying that what Warriors culture actually is how players feel when they arrive to work every day. He said, you need a goal, a shared journey, and you need the means to travel the journey. Culture is crucial because it builds habits and consistency and builds an environment that lets the players thrive. Isn't this what spiritual practice is all about? Habits, consistency, and our spiritual communities as environments that allow for and even draw out our most authentic and alive selves. That certainly is the ideal. But as ever, Kerr kept it real, reminding us that the heart of a warrior is, quote, to risk failure, then to accept failure, then keep doing that over and over. Sounds about right to me. I'd like to close with a couple quotes. Because I didn't have a chance to get into the great responsibility that that is given to players and coaches in their places of leadership. And there are some people and players who take that responsibility very seriously and use their platform for lifting up others, whether it's tangibly through the organization that Aisha and Steph Curry have created in Oakland to help feed, I think it's called Eat, Learn, Play, to feed literally hundreds of thousands of families, especially during the pandemic. Warriors player Juan Toscano Anderson was recently nominated for the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Award, which is a player who has in their community upheld values of social justice and racial justice with exemplary attitude and commitment. And the money donated for those nominated and who wins the event go to their organization of choice. And there's Juan Toscano Anderson's choice is a place called Homies Empowerment in Oakland that you might be interested in since it's local, where they are basically they're trying to work with folks who are drawn into the gang life. And what is it that people are drawn to? What are the values that people are given in gang life in Oakland? Family, commitment, a code of conduct, all of these things. They're taking those values and helping people embrace those and engage those in a life-giving way rather than in a destructive way. So that's just one example of the platform that a sports person can have and the responsibility that is there, which is a huge tangent, obviously, that I just went off on, getting to my final quotes, because we saw this on a really huge level. This quote is from Nelson Mandela, who united a racially divided South Africa through the power of rugby. Now, there were a lot of other things happening as well, but the power of rugby, he took that momentum, that collective momentum of rugby fans throughout the nation and said, sport has the power to change the world. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. It speaks to youth in a language they understand. Sport can create hope where once there was only despair. I'll leave us with this final quote from Bob Fitzgerald, who I'm sure was repeating this quote from others. He said, "Good players do for themselves. Great players do for others." Amen.